if I'm building a business just to sell it, I'm not going to build the business the best way possible because I don't care about it enough.
There's a lot of strategies out there to legally reduce and help you pay less taxes as a business owner. But anyone who's telling you can write off everything in your life and pay zero taxes, well, they can sell ice to an Eskimo. What's up, coaches? Welcome back to the Dollars and Dumbbells podcast. I'm your host, Justin Green, certified financial planner. Today, I've got a fun conversation with you with Cody McBroom. He is the founder and head coach at Tailored Coaching Method. He's also the host of the Choose Hard podcast. We have such a fun conversation. We talk about how to be a better coach. He does a lot of mentoring for coaches as well. And so we dive into how to be a better coach, why he specifically chose monthly recurring revenue and doesn't charge paid in fulls for clients, and why he thinks that makes you a better coach and is a better setup for the clients as well. You are scientifically proven to hold them more accountable. And we ultimately talk about why he's building a business that is sellable, even though he thinks he probably won't even sell the business. And before we dive in, I know it's January 2026. Everyone's thinking about taxes. If you have questions about your upcoming tax bill or how to better plan for your taxes in 2026 and ultimately tie it in with your overall family's wealth plan, go ahead, use the link in the description below to set up a free introductory call with myself, and we'll figure out if I might be a good fit to kind of help you come up with your wealth plan for 2026 and beyond. All right, let's dive into the episode with Cody McBroom. Cody, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, brother. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about what you have in mind. I feel like this isn't always the thing I get interviewed about, but I actually really enjoy discussing the business side of stuff, so it's going to be fun.
Good. Yeah, I'm excited. I love talking with the coaches who can help other coaches, whether they're just, simply coaching or they're also doing mentorship and business coaching. I think learning from other coaches who are in the game and in the trenches is just one of the best ways to learn. So the first question I got for you is, what does choose hard mean to you?
Oh, that's good. Choose hard is, in a way, the definition of discipline. It is doing the thing you don't feel like doing in the moment, but you need to do for the thing you desire most in life. So it's choosing the long-term outcome, not the short-term temporary feeling that you have. And this does not translate to a David Goggins mentality, although I love David Goggins, love his book, huge fan, but we don't coach David Goggins very often, type people. So it was something that we created for everyday people to choose hard in the micro moments of life where it might be something that's actually really easy for me, but it's not for them because it's not a habit that's ingrained with them yet. And I think that if more people accept difficulty, they accept challenge, discomfort, and honestly just hard work, especially in today's world, I think we'll be a better place. And there's going to be a lot more people that are happy, fulfilled, and successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that motto because it applies to so many different things, right? Like I see it applying to the finance side with, how I work with people, fitness, life in general. I always tell my daughter, like, we do hard things. Like, it's what we do. We do hard things. And trying to show her, obviously, like saying it's one thing, but showing it to her is another thing. And so I love that motto that you have. And, one of the things that I want to dive into today is kind of like how coaches can succeed in 2026, because I know you've been helping coaches for quite a few years. I know you've been in the game for like 7 to 8 years on your own. I think I saw a post that you just hit maybe like your 8-year mark. Is that right?
Yep.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So what do you see like that successful coaches are doing really, or what are coaches doing well that make them successful versus what coaches maybe that aren't so successful doing?
Man, this could be a rabbit hole. So let's dig into it. I think that I still today practice a lot of the same things that I practiced when I got into this 15 years ago. When I started working for somebody else and I started becoming a trainer, and I think that I modeled what I saw the people doing it well do. I just started modeling what they were doing. And I never stopped a lot of those things. And a lot of those things are not business savvy. They're not marketing savvy. They're not anything too crazy. They're not have nothing to do with social media, because I started learning this stuff before. I remember the day my mentor and boss at the time told me I got to download this thing called Instagram because it's going to be popular. Like, I remember that. I was in the gym. He was like, you should like film your clients that you're training in our gym. But we were about becoming great coaches. And I think the number one thing people fail to do today is become great coaches first. Coaching should always come first. And the problem is that, especially when COVID hit, and granted, I built an online business before COVID hit, but COVID kind of boosted our success a little bit because we were somebody who was set up for success and systems that applied to the remote setting. And people needed that in that moment, in that period of time. But I watched a lot of people start becoming quote unquote online coaches out of necessity or because it looked like this glamorous thing. And the problem with that is there was a lot of people who weren't real coaches doing it. We have gym owners where when you decide to open a gym, you got a lot of skin in the game. You got a loan, you got a property, you got bills to pay, you got a lease. You also have this public facing community stature. Like you are in the community of your town. That's a responsibility and a lot of accountability. So, I think a big problem was that there wasn't that barrier of entry for a while. And so we see a lot of hobbyists, I would say, jumping into the online space. And I think it's great if you want to chase your passion. I'm not telling anybody to not do that. But jumping into it, assuming that it's going to be easy is the wrong way to go. And a lot of those people, they're the image of what's being done wrong, treating it like a hobby and not like a profession. So I think that for the most part, what most people are doing wrong and have been doing wrong is they focus on the wrong things. I think Instagram is great, but that should not be your number one focus, right? I think that marketing is great, but that still should not be your number one focus. If you created a really badass funnel and you have a great landing page with a great webinar and you hook all these people because you're running meta ads, that's awesome. If they sign up and you suck at coaching, then what? Your service drops. You don't get any Google reviews. You're not getting any referral. There is no word of mouth existing. The next time you run ads, it ain't going to work, and you're going to be in a really bad place mentally because your product sucks. So I think in general, the number one problem I see as simple as it sounds is that I don't think enough coaches actually prioritize coaching first. They're not great coaches.
So if you're a coach listening to this and maybe you haven't been prioritizing coaching, like where do you go to? Because it's probably more than certifications, I'm assuming, right? Like
way
where do
more.
you go? Yeah. I feel like that's like the bare minimum, right? Like most people probably do have some type of cert, but like where do they go to then focus on becoming a better coach once they're past that bare minimum level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that getting a cert is kind of like one of those things where legally you just got to have it.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you can legally do this. But that's not like saying that certs aren't good. We're actually in the process of building one out. Hopefully it'll launch this year. It's very in depth for online coaches that we're building it out, and it's for coaching. And it's not about a requirement in order to do the profession. It's for leveling up as a professional. And there's some of those out there. There are good certs, and I think people should continue their education. So part of it is continued education and not just doing a cert. Nothing against NASM, nothing against ISSA or all these different like really well-known ones, but not just that. I'm talking about like finding somebody who's been a coach for decades and seeing what they're teaching, right? I think that's part of it, doing courses and stuff like that. I think part of it is having some kind of mentor or coach yourself. Easy example, I don't write my own training programs. I don't, because to this day, as much as I can,
Like for you personally.
For me personally.
Like, yeah, I got you.
I do it for everybody else constantly. So I have somebody who is helping me with my specific situation, right? I got injured. And so there's a little bit more involved in it than just regular programming, but I don't have an injury right now and I'm still having her program for me because she's amazing and I've been crushing it with her. And I learn, there's times where I get to pick her brain. There's times where she'll throw an exercise in. I'm like, oh, that's unique. I didn't think about that. Why are you putting this here? Why are you setting up the reps and sets this way, the methods this way, or how are we periodizing it? I learn from being coached. So I think part of it is being coached. And that also means being mentored, being a business coach, being a coaching mentor, whether you're learning program design from somebody or nutrition, or you're learning about the business side of things, financial advising, stuff like that. I have a lot of teachers in my life. And I think most of my career, I've basically just continually paid for coaching in different realms because I think that's a big element of this. And then lastly, I would say just finding the right kinds of content. I'm not saying there's bad content. There's people that produce, I like to think I put good content out on Instagram too. I think there's amazing content. But long form content is probably where you're going to learn the most. So finding the right people with YouTube channels, not necessarily vlogs and stuff, but like educational content you can find on YouTube, educational podcasts that you can listen to. These are things that can't be faked. If you can sit here and have a conversation with me for an hour straight, we got to know a little bit about something to be able to talk openly and freely right? And you said at the beginning, you're like, I didn't send you any script or anything because we're gonna freestyle, we're gonna go off it. I have no idea what you're gonna ask me next, but I've been
Some
doing this.
people panic. They'll email me multiple times being like, what questions should I prep for? And I'm like,
Yeah,
don't, like, just come prepared to talk about what you probably talk about all the
yeah,
time with other people. Like, don't
and
worry about it.
yeah, and sometimes I prep for shows, especially if it's a person that is in an industry that I'm not in or something, and I'll send them some question stuff. But I think for coaches' sake, like outside of if somebody has stage fright or something, you should be able to do this. You should be able to
Mhm.
talk on a topic for a long period of time. So I think finding the right long forms of content. I also think creating your own long form content. Unfortunately, ChatGPT and Gemini and stuff makes it really easy to write blogs now. But I still think that's a practice people should be doing as coaches. I do it to this day. I've always done it. And I do use AI for organizing thoughts and helping with SEO and such. But the reality is when you take a lot of information, you're able to compile it into an article, right? That does something for your brain. It is teaching you how to apply the information, the research you're studying. So learning from long form content, creating long form content, I think is really huge. And then I also think you should be going to events and seminars and workshops and getting in person. There's something that happens when you're in a room. Like I was just in Nashville with a room full of gym owners and coaches and stuff. There's just something that happens when you're around other people. Even if there's nothing being presented that I don't already know, I'm going to learn from the people around me and I'm going to be in an environment full of other coaches. Like that's really, really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, I gotta take a moment to pitch my buddy Aram's conference, the Real Coaches Summit out
Oh
in
yeah.
Vegas in April. That's I've heard from a lot of people that's a really good one to go learn how about actually coaching,
Yeah.
not just marketing and business, right? I've been to some fitness conferences and you kind of leave there feeling a little icky, you
Yeah.
know. But I've heard this one's is different than that. So I've never been out there. I was supposed to go out, it was last year or 2 years ago, but we were too close to having our second daughter and
Mm.
timing just didn't work.
Yeah.
My wife was like, "You really gonna leave for 4 days right now?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, maybe you're right." Didn't plan this out well. So, but yeah, no, I think that's a good place to check out. Totally agree with you. Kind of coaches, education, and all that. I think marketing gets a lot of focus, and it is kind of like the chicken and egg, right? It's like, well, if you don't have any clients because you can't market, how can you get better as a coach? And so it's like, what comes first? And so I do think that's hard for coaches and getting those first couple clients or the first
Yeah.
sustainable amount of clients and figuring that out. So I think obviously marketing is important. You said long form content, but you were talking like blogs, like writing, not videos. Immediately I went to videos, and then you start talking about blogs, and that kind of jumped out at me because I don't know a lot of coaches who like start out doing blogs
Yeah.
anymore. Like I feel like you just don't see that
Just
anymore.
me. I'm the only one
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, like
No.
I know actually so our mutual friends Jonathan and Blakely, I know they still put a lot up there.
Yep.
Um but I don't
And
know many
that's
of the
because of
coaches
me.
that do that. Yeah,
I told
and
them
one of the
to.
things actually they were telling me recently, and so I actually see if you've had any experience with this, but AI was kind of hurting their traffic on that because they used to get more traffic to those blogs, which would then go to lead gens, right? But they've noticed lately there's quite a dip, which is hard to completely correlate. But one of the questions was, is this
Yeah.
because of AI search?
It is. And so and then I will just echo what you said too. Aram's event is great. I haven't been either, but I have a lot of friends that have spoken there. I've been on his podcast. He's been on mine. I should be speaking there. His words, he was publicly on the podcast, was like, Cody's speaking at one of the next ones. So I'm excited to get out there probably next year and speak.
Nice.
But it is a great event for sure. I've heard so many amazing things, and it is actually about coaching, which is really cool. But the whole article thing. So when I say long form content, I mean this. I mean podcasting. I mean articles. I mean videos. I mean all the above, and I also mean collaborating them together. So when I put, for example, if I put together a podcast, we're putting together a blog about the podcast, and we're also embedding the video from YouTube and from Spotify into the article. That is driving up my SEO tremendously. I get more podcast subscriptions, podcast views, listens, all that stuff, as well as guests trying to pitch themselves onto my show because we optimize for SEO. Apple and Spotify, you can get a little bit of SEO out of search engine optimization for those listening, but not much. It's mostly Google. And then now there's AEO, which is artificial intelligence engine optimization. And essentially that is probably what they're experiencing a little bit of. And I think that, it's funny too, because a lot of people don't realize this, but I remember speaking at a conference, and Jordan Syatt was one of the people speaking,
Mhm.
and he went after me, and they had me talk on SEO and writing articles the whole talk. And he came up and he said, "Don't do anything I'm about to tell you unless you do everything Cody says first." Literally, because he was there to talk about Instagram. And he's said this on
Okay.
podcast counts time. He's been on my show. I've been on his. We've talked over the years.
I had
He
him on early on, long time
he
ago.
was the
He
same
does so
way.
many. He does so
does.
many shows.
He does. And he was the
Crazy.
same way before he got really into Instagram. And he was still the same way long after that, because the reality is that Instagram is just now picking up SEO principles that can actually apply. So if you want to rely on Instagram's algorithm and stuff, which it's not an excuse, like, oh, the algorithm's bad. It's not an excuse. But the point is people don't go to the search discover bar and search up like
No.
fat loss coach hashtag and see who pops up. They go to Google and say fat loss coach, or now they go to ChatGPT. And we've optimized our website to where we pop up when people search on ChatGPT or Gemini. We're one of the recommended people. And there's specific things to put in your, I won't get too into this, but like the advanced schema and your back end, as well as your FAQ section and all these different things on the website that ChatGPT and these other artificial intelligence engines are looking for to recommend you, versus SEO is going to be driven off of Google reviews, Google Map, SEO just logs, keywords, image sizing, site speed, things like that. But again, this is all stuff that people often don't think about. And for the majority of my business has been built on that. And Instagram and podcasting is just a layer on top that builds authority and trust. Sometimes it gets people in, but most of the time they're going to my website and they're like, well, let me see what this is all about. And they see the professionalism, they see the before and afters, they see the hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. And like, those are the things that get them to apply and work with us, because you can find any old Instagram influencer. They're not going to have the proof and the evidence of what they do as a coach. And that's what sells normal, everyday people who are looking for fat loss.
You said two things that jumped out at me. One, website, which sometimes coaches don't even have a website,
I know.
or if they do, it's literally just a VSL, which
Yeah.
to me isn't a website in my opinion.
Yeah.
So one that like jumps out at me, right? Like every financial advisor I know has a website. That is their homepage. But like for coaches, a lot of them, Instagram is essentially their website, their homepage.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the word professionalism. I just think that not enough coaches focus on that aspect of building a business and being a professional. And I just think if you were a newer coach or a younger coach, or even a coach who's kind of going along, but they've hit a plateau, if they stopped and thought about like, do I come off professionally? And that doesn't mean like, I'm looking at you, Cody, you're not buttoned up in a suit, right? Like you're tatted up, like doesn't mean that type of professionalism, but like coming off as an expert, someone who like shows that they value the work they do and the profession that they work in, and that they're going to treat their clients the same way. I think there are a lot of coaches that miss that part of running a business.
Big time. I often tell people is, if you look at yourself like a doctor, for example, if you call to make a doctor's appointment, do they say, well, when do you want to come in? Like, yeah, you can come in at the time, or you go in, you're like, they're prescribing you something and you're like, well, I don't really want to take that. Can I take this other thing instead? No, like they're very specific. There's a time you have to show up. You have to sign papers. You have to wait in the lot. Like, you're not getting on a call with me at a random time. Like, my assistant's going to set it up because I value my time. I organize. And even before I was super, super busy, I valued my time. So I stayed organized, and there was professionalism. Also, to create the allure for when I'm a new coach, I want people to understand I take this seriously. This isn't a hobby. You wouldn't trust a hobbyist doctor who just kind of does it when he feels like it. Like, I want a professional who's going to do surgery or prescribe me medicine, And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't consider that. And I think that's a big piece of it. In fact, I would even probably add that back to like where a lot of coaches are messing up, is just investing back in themselves as a coach. I mean, I don't even want to know how much I've spent on coaching and mentoring over the years, because I've been doing this long enough where it's probably in the hundreds of thousands, because 15 years of coaching. I've always invested in my craft and my product and who I am, my service. I even on a little stuff. This is funny, and this isn't like a mandatory thing, but like this, it's hard to tell because it's all black and the big logos on the back. But this is a tailored shirt. I wear a tailored shirt every single day. At one point, I realized that my whole entire wardrobe can be a tax write-off. I'm going to do this. And then I just got fresh, clean shirts every day in white and black. It's done. My whole closet, that's what it is. My wife will, but can you not wear it to the church to date night, please? I'm like, all right, I'll put a button up over it. But no, the point is, I think it's just being able to treat your career like an actual career, like a real business. I think is so huge. And that professionalism, it goes from your language to your timing to everything.
I think one of the hard parts though is like a lot of the coaches come in young. So one thing I would run into, right, is like I'd be helping coaches and I'd try and use this analogy when talking about like paying taxes, right? I'd be like, well, like when you worked at a job and you got paid from your employer, you had you'd get a W-2, they'd withhold taxes. And do you know what one of the most common responses I'd get was? I've never had a job. And I'm like, oh shit, like you're making a couple $100 grand in your business. Like they are making good money, but they're young coaches.
Yeah.
They've never had a job. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I'm mid-30s. I'm young, especially for my profession. I'm very young. But I'm like, oh, you guys are very, very young. Like some successful coaches are very young. They're mid-20s.
This is, to me, not to cut you off, but I was going to say this earlier when you were talking too, and I forgot. I think that some of these battles happen to young coaches. You even mentioned like marketing and like, how do I get clients if I'm brand new and stuff? Go work for somebody. Go work for somebody. You will learn more. They will give you clients. Like I was a trainer in the gym working for a guy named Luca Hosevar. I'm actually going to go hang out with him tomorrow. We're still close to this day. I literally trained people in the gym 6 days a week for 7 years straight before I left. Like literally 7 years. And then I found I was going to have a daughter and I was like, I got to jump now. This is my only chance, But I remember having conversations with him about taxes. I was complaining about how many taxes got pulled out of my paycheck. And then him and a couple of his entrepreneur buddies that were working out with us at the time told me how much their tax bill was. And I shut up real quick. I would complain about my physique and like, man, I'm training so hard. I've been training. They're like, how long have you been training for? 3 years in here, man, all the time. They're like, okay, well, I'm on year 13. What about you? 23. And then like, I'm like, oh, okay. So point being, put yourself around people who are wiser than you, and if you do, you're 23 and you just shit pops off and you got clients, whatever, you're making good money. That's great. I wouldn't stop you from doing that. Go hire a mentor, go hire somebody who's going to give you good advice. When I started a business, the first advice they gave me was go find a great accountant. Here's mine. I don't get anything if you use them, but they're amazing. I've been using them for years. And I was like, cool. I've had that accountant since that day. And I've been running my business. We just hit 8 years. He's been doing all my stuff for 8 years, 3 different businesses that he helps me with. He has saved me so much money. And there was times in the past where he would be like, Cody, you have to pay yourself more or you're going to screw yourself. Right. Yeah. And it's because I was frugal. I was smart. I wasn't just blowing money. I was investing back into the company, building equity, and I did things right. But it's because people told me to do. And I didn't have the type of ego that was like, I know what to do here, because I didn't. There was a lot of money to deal with and I didn't know anything about it. Right. So, and I've made mistakes, don't get me wrong, but I think that people really should, especially if you're a coach, that's what you do for a living. You coach people. You should hire a coach and get coached, in whatever area you need help with.
I love that you were like, you're like, my taxes suck. And they're like, we're paying way more. Because a lot of stories would be like, oh, we were hanging out and they were like, oh, I got an accountant who can make you pay 0. And it's like, that's run away. Run as far and as fast as you can when you hear someone trying to tell you how to pay no taxes. The reality of running a successful, profitable business is going to mean you're going to pay taxes. There's a lot of strategies out there to legally reduce and help you pay less taxes as a business owner. But anyone who's telling you can write off everything in your life and pay 0 taxes, well, they can sell ice to an Eskimo. So run as far and as fast away as you can. I've been seeing a lot of tax content lately because we're hitting the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And it's like accountants get blamed for so much. And a lot of times it's not the accountant's fault, right? Yeah. It's like I just saw a post yesterday. It was like, someone was like, accountant emailed me, I owe $100,000 in taxes by January 15th, which I could only presume meant his estimated taxes, which for me, I hear that and I go, oh, wow, good. You made a lot of money in Q4 then. Like that's like, that means you made like 300-400K. It's not your accountant's responsibility to tell you to put that money aside. It's your accountant's responsibility to tell you what you're going to owe, right? Yeah. Most people don't realize that when an accountant's job, they can do more than this, but most of the time an accountant's job is really just like, what were your numbers? Let me put it on a return. Cool. Here's what you owe. because that's what most people only pay an accountant for. Now, some accountants will offer more ongoing like tax planning and advisory support. But I've been seeing a lot of content around that lately. It's like, oh, my accountant sucks. Like the comments on that post were brutal. It was like, fire your accountant. You should pay no taxes and live in Dubai. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
Good luck. Yeah. So I think that this is where I'll just say, man, like I think that a really good piece of advice for coaches is to stay in your lane. You know, like I am a coach. I know the body, I know health, I know fat loss, muscle growth. Like that's what I do. My accountant knows more than me. There was plenty of times where I called him or I emailed him pissed off and then I would apologize. I'm like, man, dude, I'm sorry. I know it's not your fault, but like
accountants hate social media, by the way.
Oh, I bet.
because there's so many bad ideas that come through social media where people will just reach out and they're like, you know, I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. Accountants hate it.
Is this true? Sending him posts.
Can I do this?
He had conversations with me. He would just be like, dude, I agree with you 100%. I hate that you have to pay this much. It is what it is. But that means you did well. Like, let's work on it. And so I will just say that I think that one, I just stay in my lane. I have somebody like I have investment accounts. I don't know shit about investments and I'm not going to spend the time. I mean, I know enough to not be stupid, but I'm not going to spend the amount of time to become an expert because that would take a long time. I'm not an expert in that world. So I'm going to pay somebody to be an expert for me. My accountant does my bookkeeping, my financial advising, my tax planning. He does all my write-offs, everything, every single thing that is gone through, it goes through him. And yes, I pay him a good amount of money. But what I will tell people is that if you just do it, in the end, you save more money. And you might not see it because it's hard to like balance it out, but it's like meditation. Somebody's like, I don't have time to meditate. It's like, no, you don't understand. Meditate so that you move more efficiently throughout your day. You will gain time by meditating and putting yourself in a calm state. An accountant will save you money. You pay him more, yes, but they save you a ton of money. And he has done this for, again, I've recommended so many people to him at this point, just because I don't know anybody else to recommend people to. Like my father-in-law builds, like he started a custom house building company. I'm like, yeah, I think he can help you. Like, here, talk to him, like just go that way. But it's such a game changer, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Since we're talking about money and I love this conversation, it's my favorite topic to talk about. And let's go into your stance on monthly recurring revenue. That's something that you seem to stand proudly behind. And I think, have you been doing that all along, or is that something that you learned along the way?
I mean, we've done it paid in full before. It's not like we've never done it, but I can confidently say we don't do paid in fulls. Everything's monthly recurring revenue. There's a few reasons of my general thoughts, and I'm happy to answer any questions around it. But I think number one, it creates better planning and security inside the business. If I have to resell the package over and over and over again, and then I build a team and I have to train them and expect them to do it, I am placing stress on my team, stress on myself, and really insecurity inside the business because we can't guarantee that sale. I don't care if the client is the most amazing client. They are not guaranteed to pay in full another 6 months after this. So retention rates tend to be better when you can do that. You get less front loaded cash. Obviously, it's nice to have a cash injection like that. But if you want security in the business, I think it's really important to have a monthly recurring revenue. Number two, I don't plan on selling my company. But if I ever were to sell my company, it's not going to be more sellable by me being a great salesperson who crushes every once in a while at these paid in full months. Like they want a business that is bringing in revenue and it's just a cycle. It's turning because now if I went to sell, I can say, these members are paying monthly and they are set in with their coach, not me. They have a relationship with them. They might have came in because of me, but they've built a close relationship with their coach now, with my team, with my systems. It's what we do as a whole. That's a much more sellable business, right? I think that's really important. It also helps you streamline all your other expenses. So if you have a certain amount of money going towards marketing or ads or team continued education and marketing in general, whether you're talking content creation, podcast studio stuff, or like literal ads, everything, coaching, all that kind of stuff, softwares, those are all typically bills that you have to pay. And it's a lot easier to have a smart budget and a good payroll budget and a good profit margin, especially if you're going off of something like Profit First, or there's a really good book called Profit First for micro gyms that kind of breaks it down a little bit easier. Yeah. It's a great book. I've tweaked that quite a bit for me because I'm not a
honestly,
gym.
I don't think it applies very well to online coaches. And I follow like a Profit First methodology, but I tweak it a lot because with online coaches, I found that, not to cut you off, but I found that taxes were the most important because so many weren't preparing for it. So I was like,
Yeah.
actually, you know what? Taxes first,
Yeah.
and then let's focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only because I ran into so many issues where, especially when that coach finally had that first year of good, strong revenue or profit, and they had no money saved for taxes. So
Yeah.
I found that like I kind of lead with that more. But yeah, I've got that book right here, and I have Profit First as well.
I think
That's obviously the OG, but
yeah, just understanding the thought process behind this stuff is really important.
yeah, no,
You should be able to
absolutely.
know money. But having that, your allocations and your budgets are going to be a lot easier when you have a monthly recurring revenue. Number two, a big reason for this is actually a big selling point for us because that wasn't the intentional plan, but it works now. And I guess anybody listening can steal this if you want. But when we talk to people, there's a lot of times where people come to us, they've hired a coach before. And so they've had an experience, and 75% of the time that experience caused them to pay in full, whether it was they go to a trainer in a gym and they pay for a 12 package deal, or they're doing an online thing. And so when I tell them we don't accept paid in fulls, they're kind of confused at first. And I'm like, look, research shows that you're going to be more accountable if you're paying month after month. It is much more likely you're going to be accountable versus you pay a lump sum upfront. You have more motivation and more accountability, and then it kind of fades away as you don't feel that bill. I want you to feel that bill month after month. Now, that might be somewhat of a risk for me, as some people would assume, but it's not, because we only get paid. We show up, give you a great experience, and get you results. You're not going to continue to pay us if we don't do those three things. Plain and simple, this is a two-way street of accountability, and we're going to perform better and you're going to get better results. And that's what we care about most. And the fact that that is, one, very authentic and transparent and true, and two, it actually creates more security in their result that they're going to achieve. It's a much easier sale to make at that point. You know what I mean?
What's the research? So I've seen you mention the research, and then we're definitely diving into the building, like the selling the business conversation, because you said some things there that I 100% agree with, and I want to dive into with you. But what's the research there?
So there is a lot of research on accountability. Some is directly tied to actually financially paying for things, and some of it is, I would say, correlation based, meaning it's not you're paying for something, but it's about exposure. So the exposed stress, essentially, which would be the bill, right? When you're exposed to the stimulus over and over again, the likelihood of commitment and engagement is higher. There is some research that literally, there's research on free versus paying $1 for a service, and the dollar service goes further. Even if somebody is giving you the dollar to pay for it, you're still going to have more accountability towards it. But most of the research is going to point to the fact that accountability is greater when investments are made. So there is some on, they call it accountability coaching and research. So it's not fitness specific,
Yeah,
but it's general
I
goal
kind of
setting.
figured.
General
I figured
goal
it wasn't.
setting, right? So when you invest in a person to hold you accountable, and you have scheduled meetings with the person that you're paying and sitting down with, your increased rate of success was like 95%. It was just stupid high. So just in general paying.
I have read that. Yeah.
So you can tweak some of this to say, well, you could still apply it to paid in full, and maybe you could, especially if it's like, like we'll do low front end offers and it'll be like a 6 or an 8 week thing. You pay in full for that. But
I was going to ask if there was an entry level, like, do people do like a upfront deposit, like, or is it just straight up like, what do you charge monthly, I guess, to help me with this example?
Yeah. So it depends on what package you're doing, but typically it's pretty straightforward though. We do just nutrition and we do training and nutrition. Just nutrition is $347. Training and nutrition is $497. We have a 4-month minimum commitment. You don't pay for 4 months up front. You pay monthly, like I said before, but it lets us know they're serious about the process. There's no added tax, no added fee, nothing. Like, that is the price. That's the rate. That's what it is. And we have done that without any type of like low end challenge, nothing like that for a long time.
No like enrollment fee or
no, nothing. Like and we never did like a low front end offer, which is a lot easier for gyms than it is in online businesses.
Sure.
But at a certain point, we started kind of playing around with stuff and putting together like a group challenge thing. We ran one last year for summer shred. It was 8-week challenge. We opened up, we opened up 40 spots. We sold 45 people. So we have 45 people in there, and they crushed it. It was like 11.5 pounds on average lost. Everybody did phenomenal. It was great, and it did well. And we converted over 25% of those people into one-on-one online clients. So it went perfectly. And it was kind of our test run. We're actually literally doing one as we speak. We just launched it this morning. Nice. It starts February 1st. We decided not to start it right away in the new year. It's 6 weeks long, paid in full kind of thing. But again, it's like, It's a Kickstarter. It's a motivator. It's most of the people at this point in today's world know you're not going to transform your physique and lose 50 pounds in 6 weeks. But if that's like the thing you need in order to be like, let me test this out. Let me see if it's worth committing to. And then we do it and we give you a great experience and then we get you into the program afterwards. So we'll do that twice a year as like a lower tier option.
And I guess the 4-month minimum helps you with onboarding, right? So you're not like trying to force everything into the 30 days. So that way, like they're kind of seeing that value. After the 4 months continues at the same rate. There's not like a drop off or anything. What's your average like length of, like how long does your client usually stay with you?
Yeah. So
and I guess I'm not really as curious about your specific numbers, although you might have them, but I'm more curious on like the monthly recurring side is like, is there a bigger risk of drop off? Yeah, exactly.
We haven't. So the hard part is that this is how we've always done it, you know?
Yeah.
I would say that based on just what I know in the industry, the 1 or 2 times we've played around with paid and fold options, the retention is better when you have monthly recurring.
I think it would be, but that's why I wanted to hear.
Well, we got to think about it like this. When we have our bills, we have Comcast, we have our phone bill, we have our insurance. At a certain point, we budget around it and then we have a routine. If you are coaching for 4 months, we've been indoctrinated into your budget and your routine. So as long as we're providing great results, great experience, and you're continuing to expand your goals that you're setting, you're going to stay with us. And what we find the biggest correlation to retention rates, and this is actually really interesting because we've like obsessed over this over the last year. There's a couple things. One is going to be continued goal setting. So when somebody thinks that I'm just going to lose this weight, then I learn what maintenance is and then I leave. I just reverse that, I'm done. And sometimes that's all people need. We get people that are like, I'm a coach, I've been doing this forever, but I got a wedding or I got a photo shoot and I just want somebody to help me get shredded real quick. Like I need it. And that's fine. It happens because we get a lot of coaches that hire us. But for the everyday person, it's, we all know this is kind of cheesy, but it's the process, not the outcome, right? So the outcome is where we're headed. But what they gain in the process is what we lean on the most. And it's the self-control, the self-discipline, the self-belief, and the self-respect. We call it the self-formation process. That lends them to, you know what, I want to set some targets. I want to do a half marathon, or I want to show up at my church in a certain way. I want to show up for my marriage a certain way. I want to play more with my kids. And they start doing things that we're able to kind of coach them through. That keeps them on board for much longer. And it becomes this lifestyle, which is what we enjoy so much. So we've seen that be a big role. The other thing, and we actually used AI to organize, like our testimonials, our Google reviews, a bunch of different like update forms. We looked at cancellations, like all kinds of stuff. And we used AI to organize and basically curate some answers around what makes people retain the longest and what creates the best results and transformation and most raving fans and all that kind of stuff. And it's personal identity and core values, which is pretty crazy. But that is a hard thing to coach because if you're not firm and strong on your own personal identity and your own core values, that can present an issue because you're not leading by example. We've really leaned into that and we've had people quit. I've had to fire people. We've had new people join. Like we've built a team around these values and we're really, really firm and strong on them. It's helped us a ton. It was some growing pains involved, but our retention rate went up way higher and people are getting great results that are life-changing because we're helping them set values in their life and determine what their identity is and who they are as a person and what their beliefs are. And that translates to so much more. And they have this level of self-respect that keeps them accountable internally. It's been amazing. So I would say like in general, though, I think the average client, if we span through like the last few years, all the coaches, so including me, because I still coach, I think our retention rate is typically 7 to 9 years. I just had a guy hit 5 years a couple of days ago, though. Like
7 to 9 years clients stay with you?
7 months. So 7 to 9 months.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, that's
crazy.
Long.
I did have a guy just hit 5 years. I have a couple coaches on my staff that have multiple clients been with us for 2 years. I do as well. But when you factor in the fact that some people do just need a transformation, I would say minimum is 6 months. That's our standard of like, we need people to stay for at least 6 months to really have the effect. Typical clients are staying with us closer to a year though.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to go back to the selling your business conversation because something I say all the time is, so here's things I believe in is run a very high profit business when you're a coaching business, right? It should be very high profit, and I believe strongly in a very stable base of monthly recurring revenue. I'm not against paid in fulls, but I think you need a very strong base so you're not starting each month at zero, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I always talk about with coaches is one, most of you will never sell your businesses. Most coaching businesses are not a saleable asset because it's built around the personal identity of the founder. And,
I agree.
there's just a lot of reasons, right? Now, will some people sell? Sure. Will it be a fire sale to a buddy or another coach? Maybe, right? Most of them aren't going to sell. So what does that mean for you as a business owner and a coach in different ways, right? If you're building wealth, that means you need to take money out of the business and build wealth outside of the business, because a lot of business owners will reinvest everything into the business with the intent of selling, and then they're going to have a large liquidity event. They're going to get, a couple million when they sell the business, and that's their wealth, right? You're not going to have that. As a coach building a successful business, you're not going to have that. So you need to pay yourself well, live the life that you want to live, but also pay yourself enough to then invest elsewhere. Obviously my philosophy is stock market, but that could be real estate or whatever it is. So that's one thing I bring up. The second thing I bring up is, if you are lucky enough to sell your coaching business, what are they looking to buy? If someone's buying a coaching business, what are they looking to buy? And it's going to be recurring revenue and profit. And you made that point, so I just wanted to emphasize it and reinforce it, is that having a very high profit business means if you do try and sell it, someone's actually going to buy it, because the only thing you're really buying as a coaching business is the cash flows and profits, right? So if you run $1 million business and your profit sucks, why would someone want to buy all that work and no profit? That's what I try and explain to coaches because I get a lot of coaches who are high revenue and profit is trash. Which I'm sure you've probably seen quite a bit of that, right? They've just been in too many programs that, set up terrible business models. And that's one thing I try and explain is high profit will benefit you in so many different ways, whether it's funding your own lifestyle, funding your own investments, or a future sale. But no profit is not good for anyone. High revenue, no profit doesn't solve any problems. So I just wanted to reemphasize that.
I agree with everything you just said. I did kind of how I've done everything, to be honest with you. I don't invest in real estate, not that I think there's anything wrong with it, but I do in the stocks intentionally. And
I personally find a lot of my business owner clients, they always want to start with real estate, and then they always get out of it as quickly as they can. And the reason isn't that real estate can't be a great investment, because it can. It's very market dependent. But I personally find you either need to be all in and it becomes kind of like your job, like a real estate investor. Or if you try and hobby it with a couple properties on the side, it pulls a lot of attention and focus away from your business. So every business owner client I've had that has done that, I've found that they realize quickly their business starts to suffer. So I'm treat your business as the money machine. Always 100%. Should be the money machine. And then the investments are kind of how do you preserve your wealth, right? But you're going to create the most wealth in your business.
Yeah. And I know for me, long term, I do plan on doing some real estate, but to be honest with you, it's to own a building that I will put my own business in.
Put your business in. Yeah.
Yeah. And that might even change, because the way our property is set up, I actually have the opportunity to build on top of my own detached garage, since my father-in-law has a custom home building business. It would be pretty
convenient.
cheap. And then my company would pay me rent and lease and write off some of the taxes on the property and stuff like that. So I'll probably go that route. But regardless, I think I agree with you.
And then you've got an asset in the business.
Exactly.
So if you then,
exactly.
in the future, you probably would actually sell your business at that point, but you're more so selling the real estate that's attached to the business.
Right. But even then,
rather than the coaching.
The way business works best in today's world, especially in service-based businesses, coaching-based businesses, online businesses, clothing brands would be this way too. There's a heavy influence of personal branding involved in it. This is why a good example of this is New Balance. New Balance has made a huge comeback, and part of the reason they did
right around the corner.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah. So
they're in Boston.
made a change.
I'm outside of Boston.
they made a change probably a couple years ago now, but I think it was the CFO or somebody. Basically, they got a new, I'm sorry, I think it was CMO, the marketing officer, but he came in and he shifted. It was like 70% advertising, 30% brand. And he flipped the script and went 70% brand, 30% advertising. And they blew up. And it's partially because there's a lot of personal brands with runners and athletes and celebrities and stuff wearing New Balance. And now it's a personal brand that is growing the company. Now, I'm not somebody who can represent New Balance and grow their company. I'm not that big, but TCM, Taylor, it is attached to me. I am the coach. So the way I've always looked at this is, one, I don't plan on selling it. I don't think if I'm building a business just to sell it, I'm not going to build the business the best way possible because I don't care about it enough. But what I have looked at is, somebody asked me a long time ago, my business used to be called Boom Boom Performance because my nickname was Cody Boom Boom McBroom. That's what it was. And it was like, went from like a joke in soccer to like my blog. And then I was like, okay, let's just make that the business. And then it was just me. And I didn't really have intentions of doing a whole team, but then it grew and I was like, I need to figure something out. And somebody was like, are you going to sell your business eventually? I was like, I don't think so. And they're like, well, you should consider making it sellable because I think it would run better. I changed the name. I built out systems because the thing that is sellable about a business is the product itself, the brand unattached to the person or the systems involved. If we have great systems, whether I sell or not, my business is going to grow faster. It's going to grow smoother. People are going to have more support. It just makes sense. So we really emphasize that idea of making it a sellable business without the intention of selling it. Then I started actually investing some of my money into something that could be sellable. For example, we have the app, the Tailored Trainer. That is my personal app. You get my workouts. It's delivered daily. It's like simple, $29 a month. It's a cheap membership. I've poured everything back into that because I own the code. I own every single aspect of it. That is a sellable business with or without me because the system can be white labeled. Somebody can put their logo on it and make an amazing, and it is, I can confidently say it's better than any training app there is. It's not a True Coach or Trainer Oak where you can pop in your training for your clients, but it is my workouts, my style, RIR, tracking everything, content exclusive, everything's there. The guy that was helping me build, I used a lot of different developers, but after a while I found somebody I trusted and I really liked. I gave him 20% of the company. He's invested in this too. We're going to build this company bigger and bigger, whether we sell it or not. And that is an example of taking my coaching business, that is my bread and butter, taking a piece of the pie and going, let me invest in something that could generate wealth, that could build something in the future. Choose Hard is the same way. It's the podcast. It is partially my brand, but I have that trademarked. Choose Hard is my trademark. And that is a very desirable term and slogan. It looks great on our hats and on our journals and everything we do. And same thing, that is something that can be grown outside of trading my time for money. But like, I knew what my craft was. I knew what I was going to be able to, I don't believe you can ever become a master, but let's say master the process of, and that's coaching. But that is trading my time for money. So how do I do that full of passion and then figure out how to create a level of success that can invest in these other areas that also I'm passionate about, but can actually leave money behind, for my daughter? She could leave her something, or allow me to buy land that the government can't tax if I die, and then I can give that to her. And so,
well, the government does tax your land, just so you know, property taxes.
Yeah, right. Which is crazy to me that they can even do that. But it's the death tax is a lot different.
Yeah, they'll always find a way to tax you, man.
Of course.
There's no way around that, as much as we all would like it, especially business owners. We all hate taxes just because we pour so much time and energy into it and we see the effort. And then so it's like, we don't want anyone's hands in the pot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, that's a smart strategy that you got going on there. Excited to watch the journey from afar. I appreciate you coming on, Cody. Why don't you let everyone know where they can learn more about you, where they can follow along? We'll cap it at that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Cody McBroom on Instagram. You can Google Cody McBroom or Choose Hard Podcast or Tailored Coaching Method. Those are the main places. All the content, we put out so much free content. The podcasts, we're in the top 5% of video podcasts on Spotify. So we got a big audience and a lot of amazing guests. Go check that out. Everything we do there, from the coaching, the mentorship, the app, everything can be found in those places.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming on, Cody.